There are 31 teams in the NFL that have a chance at opening up their season at home. I can tell you one of them that's not going to. Welcome everybody to JG9 News, where we talk all things NFL all the time. I'm Jared Garrett, and I'm representing the 904 from the 602, and today we are talking about this team behind me right here, the Pittsburgh Steelers, as it pertains to the NFL schedule release coming out on Wednesday at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. And we're going to be going live for that one on JG9 on the main channel, so be sure to check that out. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of fun on that stream. We're going to break everything down in real time, going live at 7 o'clock Eastern on that channel. We'll have tons of news and tons of streams as more details come out about the schedule. But we do know this much when it comes to the team behind me right here, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I can say with 99.999% certainty that they will not be opening up the season at home. I don't know who they're going to play week one, but I know that week one is not going to be at Acrisure Stadium. The thing with the Steelers is that they share a complex with PNC Park where the Pittsburgh Pirates play. That is the same stadium complex. They have the same parking lots. They share the same everything pretty much. And the Pirates have a home game on September 8th, that's Sunday, against the Washington Nationals at 1:35 p.m. Eastern Time. That means that unless the Steelers decide to play at the same time that the Pirates are playing at home, that the Steelers will not be playing at home during week one. Now you might be saying, well, what about the Thursday night game? They could play September 5th. Well, no, they can't, because we know the Kansas City Chiefs are playing at home because they're the defending Super Bowl champion, and the defending champion always opens up the season at home, barring some crazy exception that we know about well in advance, and that does not apply for the Kansas City Chiefs. They'll open up the season on September 5th at home. But you might say, okay, what about Monday Night Football? Because, yes, the Pirates played home on September 8th, but what about September 9th? Well, the Pirates are also at home that day. They're at home against the Miami Marlins at 6:40 Eastern Time. The Pirates actually have a super long home stretch of 10 games from September 5th through Sunday, September 15th against the Nationals, Marlins, and the Royals. Now, you might be saying, okay, well, does this mean the Steelers can't play at home week two? Because, like I said, the Pirates are at home on September 15th against the Royals at 1:35. It's unlikely they could still be at home, though, that week. I don't want to rule that out because number one, the Pirates don't play that Thursday, and Monday they're on the road to take on the Cardinals, so it is possible that the Steelers could play on Monday Night Football week two and open up their home slate there, or they could play on Thursday Night Football in week two, so I don't want to rule that out of the equation. They won't play Sunday at home week two, but they could play at home week two. But week one, I can guarantee you they are not going to play at home. They will be on the road. And yes, there are some complexes where you can have two games happening at the same time. There are some complexes where you can have both teams playing games and it goes off without a hitch, or there are the logistics in place to do it because the parking lot is that big and there's easy traffic flow in and out, relatively speaking. Pittsburgh, it's not like that. Pittsburgh, it's not like that. You want to know how I know that? Because we have a decade's worth of history to go off of when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Pittsburgh Pirates and their home schedules. I looked at every home game that the Steelers had during football season over the last 10 years from 2014 to 2023. I excluded 2020 for two reasons. Number one, there was no logistical nightmare with fans and traffic. That was not an issue in parking because fans were not allowed in the stadium. There was no attendance at MLB games, no attendance at the games in Pittsburgh back then. Also, number two, the MLB schedule did not come out until after the NFL schedule did because of COVID and because they didn't start the season until July. It was a shortened 60-game season. They modified a lot of things based on the opponents that you played. You pretty much stayed geographically. You didn't play all the teams. So it was very, very different set of circumstances. So the last 10 years, excluding 2020, I looked at every home game that the Steelers had and every road game that the Steelers had during baseball season. There have been 36 instances in that stretch where the Steelers had a game that could have fallen during regular season baseball. You know how many times the Steelers and Pirates played at home on the same day in those 36 instances? Zero. Zilch. Nada. It has not happened because it is a logistical nightmare. You look at the spreadsheet here. There are some times where both teams were not at home, so you have the Steelers on the road and the Pirates on the road. That can happen. You had times where the Pirates were at home, but the Steelers were on the road, and you had times where the Steelers were at home, but the Pirates were on the road. But you've not had in the last 10 years, again, excluding 2020, because that doesn't really count. You have never had an instance in that stretch where the Steelers and Pirates were both at home on the same day, especially because at Acrisure Stadium where the Steelers play, the lots open up 5 hours before kickoff. So you're completely screwed no matter what time you play the Pirates game at. I talked in my last video on JJ9 News about the Ravens and how they could be the Sunday Night Football game in Week 1 because the Baltimore Orioles moved their game up from 1:35 to 12:05. The lots at M&T Bank Stadium open up 4 hours beforehand, so it shouldn't be any logistical nightmare because the Orioles game will be done by that point. The lots open up at around 3:50, 4 o'clock for a game like that, and the Orioles game will be over by that point. Shouldn't be a huge problem. But here, the lots open 5 hours before kickoff. There is no time whatsoever where you can play the Steelers game and have it not conflict with the Pirates because you don't have enough spaces to accommodate roughly 90,000 people at the same time when you combine the capacities of PNC and Acrisure when you consider the casino and other things in the area since the stadium is relatively downtown. And it's not like the Pirates can move their game. You can't exactly move up the game from 1:35 to 12:05. That makes no difference whatsoever when it comes to the Steelers. You can't move it back to 4 o'clock. That also makes no difference with the Steelers. The only way that the Pirates game gets moved in a way that benefits the Steelers somewhat is if they move that game to Sunday Night Baseball, but you can't do that because, number one, that's not going to be announced until 2 weeks in advance, and number two, that relies on ESPN, and even though Sunday Night Baseball starts at 7 o'clock now, not 8 o'clock, that's somewhat of a problem, and I highly doubt that the Pittsburgh Pirates-Washington Nationals game will be a Sunday Night Baseball game. I could be wrong, but you got Yankees-Cubs on the schedule, you got Guardians-Dodgers, you got Giants-Padres. I'm sure ESPN will take one of those 3 games over the game between the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Washington Nationals on Sunday Night Baseball. I'd be very, very surprised if that happens. And again, that's ESPN's call to make 2 weeks before that game or 3 weeks before. It will not take place right now. So I can't see a situation where the Steelers are playing at home in Week 1. Obviously, Thursday night is off the table because the Chiefs are playing at home. Sunday off the table because the Pirates are playing the Nationals. And Monday's off the table because the Pirates are playing the Marlins. Could the Steelers be on Sunday Night Football against the Baltimore Ravens? Russell Wilson's debut, big rivalry game, one of the biggest rivalries in football. And like I said before, the Ravens might have Sunday Night Football because the Orioles announced the start time of their game being moved up to 12:05. So you could see the Steelers on the road against the Ravens for Sunday Night Football Week 1. But again, that's just speculation. That's just an educated guess on my end. But I can tell you this much. The Steelers will not be playing at home in Week 1 on any date. They could still play at home in Week 2, whether it be Thursday Night Football or Monday Night Football. They won't do Thursday Night Football if they play Sunday Night Football Week 1. That's too short of a turnaround time. And Monday Night Football, do you do back-to-back weeks for the Steelers in prime time? You could, but it might not be the best idea in the world, although it's not out of the realm possibility. So they could play at home in Week 2, just not on Sunday. Week 3, the Pirates are on the road, so I could definitely see the Steelers playing at home Week 3, but again, that's just an educated guess on my end. I can tell you this, though. Week 1, September 8th, do not expect the Steelers to play at home. If you're a Steelers season ticket holder and you're trying to figure out which Sundays you need to devote to going to the games and which ones you can watch on your couch, September 8th seems like a pretty good bet to stay at home and watching it on your couch or at a bar because they will not be playing at Acrisure Stadium on that day. But what are your thoughts? Do you think the Steelers will play at home in Week 1? Do you think that this rumor on my end has any legs to it? Do you think on top of that the Steelers play Week 2 at home? When do you think they open up the season at home? And how do you think the Steelers are going to do this year? What are your predictions for the Steelers' schedule? Do you think they're going to get primetime games? Obviously, we know they're going to get some. How many games do you think they get? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And that's going to do it for this episode of JG9 News. Be sure you like and subscribe. It helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out my main channel, JaguarGator9, where we talk all things NFL history all the time. Until next time, this is JaguarGator9 signing off. And as always, go Jags.